Many years ago, I was an instructor at a community college. My motivation for seeking that job was that I was trying to decide if I wanted to be Dr. Mylena Sutton. And part of that decision-making process meant that I needed to choose or focus on either becoming great at the research part of the job or being a wonderful rock star in the classroom. I sought out to create the undergraduate experience of a lifetime. And it was a freshman seminar course. I mean, it couldn't be that hard, right? Well, about halfway through the first half of the semester, things began to go a little left. I started to realize that I was fielding more and more requests from students for things that they could have found in the syllabus. And then when testing started, oh my God, the grades that were coming in, somebody was failing those tests, and it wasn't me. But when so many somebodies were failing the test, I couldn't deny that something was wrong. Well, when we finally hit about midterm, the department director called me in. And she said, "Mylena, your students have come to me, and they are afraid of you." I was floored. I was embarrassed. And then I got mad. As she began to give me her perspectives about things that I could do differently, some of the complaints she'd gotten from students, she said this: "You are so much of a professor that you are not a friend." And that's when I got mad. I said, I have no intention of becoming a friend. I wasn't hired to be a friend. That's not what I intend to do. But if you think they need a friend, now she didn't expect this, I am prepared to hand over this class to another perspective today. If you have another instructor in the wings, let me know, and you can have this. I'm out. She didn't see that coming, and frankly, I didn't plan to do that, but she was so shocked. She stood up and kicked me out of her office. She stood up, she says, "I have another meeting, but here's one thing I do know. This is your problem, and you need to fix this." And in the immediate days to follow, I talked to a ton of people, other instructors, people who taught young people in other settings. And here's what was interesting to me. All of them affirmed that my expectations were reasonable. Yeah, that's pretty simple. I don't know why, they can't do that. How dare the dean ask you to be friends and tell you that's part of the job? That's what's wrong with people now. That whole thing. Everybody was co-signing my perspective. And the light began to come on. I realized I created that course based on the academic experiences that I had. I'd gone to 2 large state schools with student bodies well over 20,000 students. My very first class, my freshman year, was taught in an auditorium with 600 people. And I also realized that the students that I was teaching, they didn't sign up for that. They signed up to be one in a class of 25 so that they could get the support and the help that they needed. Mind blown. I was like, whoa, I am teaching the students who I want, not the students that I have. As leaders, I see this particular challenge when I go in to work with leaders and teams. The leader is focusing on telling me what's wrong, what the people aren't doing, how they've prepared and set things out pretty easily, and they just don't get it, why these people can't conform, comply, get it together. And all too often what I'm finding is that they are preparing for and teaching this group, but they have this group on their team. And with that being said, what I often push leaders to ask themselves is this: whose agenda are you following? Are you driving to finish the textbook, but failing to see that the people in your class aren't keeping up? Failing to take your team with you, failing to figure out what it takes to get them aligned. What I figured out in that classroom experience, I had to take the time to adjust my approach. But at first, my attitude wasn't that. I was indignant, frankly. I felt like what I'm asking for is simple. You should be able to do it. I am the teacher and the smart one here. Case closed. Do what I asked you to do. And then on the other hand, I also had to admit that my approach in that space wasn't effective. When I confront teams where there are entrenched problems with respect to alignment and buy-in, one of the questions that I always ask, when you realize that those gaps are there, are you willing to make the shift, to lean into the challenges and meet your team members and teammates where they are,